Hi, this is John Grutas, and today is the 16th of August 2022. And today, what I want to talk about is thoughts. So, thoughts, by the name itself, what are they? Thoughts are ideas, thoughts are things, real things that exist somewhere in the ether, somewhere in the air, somewhere in our minds. They arise, and some people make use of them, and some people do not. Thoughts are not good nor bad. Thoughts are just thoughts. When we were babies, we all know this from the bottom of our hearts that there was no true and there was no false. There was no good nor there was bad. There was no behaviors that can be classified as good or bad because we are experiencing life based on our emotions, based on how we feel. And most of the time, how we feel is in direct correlation to our lives, to our survival. So, where does the good, where does the bad categorization of our thoughts came from? How did we judge a situation, a circumstance, a decision as whether it is good or bad? Well, there are three core fundamentals regarding the influence of being good and being bad of a situation or a circumstance. And the first one is our programming from our parents, our guardians. Because most of the time, the influence that our guardians, that our superiors had on us were so strong that some of us isn't strong enough, isn't conscious enough to break away from the chains of our past, of our upbringing. Second is society. The programming of society, programming of your peers, programming of your friends, programming of the people that you have lived with, programming by your culture, programming by your environment, programming basically by the type of community that you have lived in. It also has a big influence on classifying thoughts, whether they are good or bad. If a child who was raised in begging for changes, begging for food in the streets, were taught that to live, to have something to eat, you must ask other people for changes. You must ask other people for help. You must ask for food. You must ask, and whatever it is that happens, you must have something. You must have something that the other people has. And a person who got their needs met from a very young age, every needs that there is, every desires that men want. Children who were raised into that kind of environment live a very different life. They were taught that asking people for help is embarrassing. they were taught that asking for people for help is a weak behavior. So child who was raised in poverty and a child who was raised in a very rich household has very different judgment on a very different things. And then the last factor on deciding whether things are good or bad is your experience. If as a child your experience on superiors are very bad, you didn't get along with people who are who you think who is superior than you, well, you might grow up not learning how to follow an authoritative figure like me. If you grow in an environment where female role models are very open about their sexuality, about being a stripper, being a sex worker, and then as a child you might think that using your body to earn for a living is good compared to the child who was raised in a very conservative family, very religious mother, very hardworking father, very traditional father. You think that selling your body for a living is very bad. So our experience matters a lot in regarding on classifying things, situations, and circumstances as good or bad. But does it have to be that way? What kind of God, what kind of powerful being decided that things A is good and things B is bad? How powerful can you be to influence the entire human race into believing that A is bad and B is good? How powerful can you be? So that is one of the things that I have thought about recently, is that there are no such thing as good or bad, evil or good. There is only your thoughts. There's only how you interpret them. And how you interpret them will be filtered by the three factors of classifications, three factors on which you will classify them, which is society, experience, and your upbringing. Society, experience, and upbringing. These are the three factors in which you will decide in which whether a thing, a situation, or a circumstance is bad. But there is also there's also this, in which is only achieved by being constantly dwelling in your thoughts, like me. You can you can make a decision without regarding one situation, circumstance, or thing as good or bad. You just make a decision and you live by it. Labeling things as good or bad isn't necessary, because not only does it take up a lot of space in your mental capacity, it also brings about prejudice towards a certain situation, and it brings about bias, because we all know that a human cannot live exactly the same as another human being. We are very different from each other, yet we have roles to play. We have very different fingerprints, even though we are the same. We are males. We may be look alike, but our fingerprints will never be the same. Science have proven that. So that is the point that I am making. You can do something without judging it. You can observe something without judging it. You can see something without categorizing it as a good or bad. And you can be still. How wonderful it is to have a mind without judgment. To see a thing without judgment. To see a thing as it is. Not how you think that thing should be. If that makes sense. So, those were my thoughts for today. I am now washing the dishes, and I still have a document to finish because I have applied for a job at call center. It will be my first job if I ever get passed, and I am expecting a total shift from my life. I will be able to stand for myself, feed myself, live by myself, and I will be able to make decisions. I will be able to experience real life struggles, pay my bills, budget, live below my means, starve, get really exhausted, get very irritated, but I am grateful that me living in this very privileged household have learned a lot of things throughout the internet. I have learned not only to control my emotions, I have also learned to be a stoic. To not be very reactive to things. To be the cause, not the effect of things. To be stable like a rock. To be in my masculine frame. To be responsible for myself. I have learned a lot of things in this pandemic. And it is now me saying that everything that has happened was necessary. Everything that is happening is necessary. And everything that will happen is necessary. It's almost as if everything is planned. Everything is a play. And I am very grateful for every moment that I am speaking, I am breathing, I am witnessing the beauty of life, and I believe there's a God, because how perfect can any of these situations be if there isn't any God that has planned this moment, from this very moment to the very last, and also from the past. So I'm a changed man. A lot can happen in a span of 2 to 3 years, even 1 year. It just takes discipline. It just takes a will to learn. Even if that will is very selfish, even if that will is to make others seem inferior, because as I said, nothing is really good or bad. It is how you think of something which makes it good or either bad. So if you're like my friend, I have a friend Jake. Since he is the youngest child, maybe he was raised very right by his parents. The experiments of adults on having a child were the eldest up to the middle child, and then by that they should have learned how to raise a child properly. And then I think Jake was raised very properly. Jake had brothers. Jake is well set in life, and then he always finds a way to justify his beliefs, his values. Although from my perspective, from my experiences, from my own biases, I have some things that I do not agree with him, but I understand his logic, since I understand where where he comes from. So I'm that type of guy. But I just don't disagree with him very verbally, because I understand. I just let him be. That's just my wish for people. I wish people understand me, understand the things that I do, from the people, from the environment, from the experience that I came from, and try to put themselves in my shoes, try to live in my world. I bet they won't last a minute. So be understanding, but if someone crossed your boundaries, fuck him. I will beat the shit out of them. This is my promise to myself. There will come a time where I will be very intimidating. There will come a time where I will not tolerate any other bullshit. There will be a time where I will be very cold, very stoic, very intimidating, very fearless, very cocky, very arrogant, very flirtatious, very bossy, very evil. There will come a time, and I can wait for that time. So right now I am working on myself, trying to have a job. Is the first step of what I am trying to achieve in life, financial independence. So it is 18 minutes, and I do not have any storage left in my phone. I will buy a SD card later. I will borrow money from my parents, and I will pay it a week later. And I shall buy a cheap one, and then I'll get the change. I think that will be my plan for now, so that I will have spare money in my wallet. Yes. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.